Last season, Trae Young put on an offensive clinic in every sense of the word, spearheading Atlanta's top-tier team offense. Despite getting off to a poor start shooting the ball this year, with their new look roster, his high-volume shot creation and playmaking have been on full display, while he continues to grow with backcourt partner DeJounte Murray. But just how good is he on that end of the floor right now? What are his strengths and areas where he can improve to take that next step? And can he one day become the best offensive player in the NBA? Trae's attack starts with his all-time level pull-up jump shooting. He's got an absurdly quick release and transfer of energy getting the ball off the floor that allows him to pull the trigger in the tightest of windows, often going to these quick hitters in transition or in the high pick and roll. He's a threat to shoot the moment he crosses half court due to his extreme range. At 27.5 feet, he led the NBA in average distance on three-point attempts, and he hits them at a healthy enough clip to force super tight ball pressure and aggressive perimeter coverages. This is where you'll see him use his outstanding handle and agility to create space, going to lots of quick changes of direction and foot plants, lethal crossovers, and sidesteps, with his go-to being one nasty step back. He's capable of knocking these down when heavily contested, off balance, and on the move, which allows for incredibly high volume shot creation and shooting, but he can rely on these lower percentage looks a bit too much at times, especially early in the shot clock where if he can see the rim, he's willing to launch it regardless of where he is. As a result, his shot quality on the perimeter is pretty low, but his ability to still make these shots, when paired with how many opportunities he generates for himself, lands him among the league's best three-point shooters. It's not just on the outside where he's an elite creator though. I earlier mentioned the amount of pressure he forces defenses to put at the point of attack, which he also counters by again using that shifty handle to penetrate the lane and make plays inside the arc. He gets low when slashing, and because of how agile he already is, he can blow by almost anyone who stands in his way, consistently getting deep into the paint, although he is a limited interior finisher. At 6'1", without high-flying vertical gifts, it's difficult to set himself up for high-quality looks at the rim, and because he doesn't have much strength or body mass to make up for it, added contact and physicality can really throw him off. He averts this as much as possible through the use of euros and step-throughs to dodge defenders near the paint, but his strides just aren't long enough to carve out angles at a high level. Therefore, he has to maximize the smallest windows possible, relying on tough scoops and reverse layups that he can get off the floor and release quickly, and while he does have solid touch, it's nothing to write home about, and he can't do it through shot blockers. While a lack of interior scoring does hurt, he added the mid-range game as a way of countering and adding another dimension to his offensive arsenal. Due to his aforementioned size and strength deficiencies, he doesn't use bumps or contact to create separation, but catches defenders off guard with quick pull-up jumpers, often coming off of dribble combos. He again really likes to step back as a go-to and has strong utilization of up fakes as a way of generating more open looks. That's without even mentioning his most effective way of scoring inside the arc, the floater. He's great at getting defenders on his hip or backside off of the initial drive, and if there's any space left between him and the helper, regardless of how far away from the basket he is, will comfortably float the ball over the top at great efficiency. In these spots, he's also masterful at drawing fouls, waiting for his man to build up momentum on the recovery, and slamming the brakes right in their path. All in all, what you have is an extreme high volume shot creator from all three levels, who always keeps his dribble live with a purpose and can get deep into defensive pressure points without much difficulty, and he capitalizes on the advantages he creates through this scoring threat with amazing passing. He's a huge risk taker, doing whatever's necessary to get the ball to the highest value shots on the floor with creativity. And he's a master of manipulation, playing a game of cat and mouse with opposing defenders to move them around like pawns. Here Collins slips a screen, but Trae still draws two to the ball. This forces Avdia into making a decision, and when he chooses to tag the roller, Trae stares down the corner, loads up for a hook pass like he's throwing it cross court, which sends Denny away from the paint for a free 2 points. Young rarely ever looks at his actual target, This whole time he's watching the corner with the intention of creating a shot at the rim. You'll notice he also does a phenomenal job at masking his deliveries, this time again drawing two off the screen, gathering into what looks like a skip pass, but instead whipping it to the now wide open Capella. He's very patient with his decisions, willing to take whatever the defense gives him and putting them in tough positions where they have to pick their poison. As a result, he generates more openings for teammates at the rim than anyone in the NBA, and has a flurry of ways to get the ball there. The first is his unrivaled lob passing, which is versatile in itself. He masks his floater as soft touch lobs over the top, can scoop the ball right off the ground with pinpoint accuracy, or can just snap one-handers from virtually anywhere on the floor with super quick release speed. Then there's his on-court passing. As I showed earlier, he loves to move around helpers and find cutters, which he can hit with high velocity, but also knows when to feather them in. He's especially good at pocket passes to the roller. Because he so commonly forces bigs to play at the level of the screen, there's a brief moment where he can shovel the ball through even the tightest windows, and he's phenomenal with his offhand, adding a ton of flexibility to the type of delivery angles he creates. When he gets deep in the paint, he'll probe with a live dribble as he hunts for the most efficient shot possible, often faking finish attempts for dump-offs and laydowns, or finding corner shooters for open threes. In these spots, he completely sprays the floor with dimes. He's one of the few players who can actually throw accurate cross-court passes with his offhand at high speeds, and often goes to hook passes to find teammates above the break. Many estimates of playmaking suggest that he is the league's premier creator, and I would argue that the reason his passing versatility appears worse in the numbers is because he so consistently makes the same type of deliveries to the rim, with defenses having no way of preventing them. His overall skill set makes him arguably the league's best pick and roll ball handler. Because of his deep pull-up shooting threat, these actions often start well above the perimeter, where bigs are forced to play at or near the level of the screen with aggressive coverages. This puts them in a more vulnerable position to deal with those quick drives, where he's able to get to pressure points in the defense and make plays for himself and others. There's also that advantage being generated at the point of attack, which forces off-ball defenders into rotation, whether that means stunting on the ball or tagging the roller, and he does a phenomenal job at mapping the court and picking his opponent apart. Now, the way I'm describing it may have you questioning, if he's such a high-level creator, passer, and decision maker in the pick and roll, why can't Atlanta just put the ball in his hands and run through these actions again and again like clockwork to continuously generate high-quality looks? Well, the easy answer would be that their impressive number 2 offense from last season without a true second star suggests that they did it successfully, but in the playoffs, things changed in a drastic way. Before we get into that though, I want to give a quick shout out to Basketball Index for helping with this analysis and the making of this video. If you're not familiar with the site, they provide tons of statistical measurements, tools, and easily accessible graphics to further guide your understanding of the sport. I earlier mentioned quite a few of their talent grades, and through their player profiles tab, I can easily compare them to other players around the league. Using Trae Young's 3-point shooting as an example, on this page I'm presented with various metrics detailing his ability to create and make these shots, along with how he stacks up against his peers. This is just one of the many useful tools found on the site that help guide me and many others through their analysis, and by signing up with the code VENUE30, you can get 30% off your first month subscription. I'll leave a link in the description below for anyone interested in signing up, and with that being said, let's take a look at the 2022 playoffs. If almost all of your team's offense is going to come from one playmaker in a ball-dominant heliocentric approach, when you're matched with a high-level defense over a 7-game series, there just can't be any exploitable flaws, or they will scheme the life out of them. This is what we saw in the Miami Heat series, taking advantage of Trae's lack of height and inability to make reads over the top of the defense by aggressively gapping and covering every passing lane with as much length as possible. Notice how as Trae goes to drive, Tucker shoots up to cover the nail, turning away the attack while still remaining in position to take away the corner pass. Shutting off his driving angles like this prevented him from getting deep into the paint and forcing collapses, and because he can't create with physicality or finish well through traffic, this resulted in lots of shot chucking, with deep threes early in the clock. Relying on these tougher looks is where you'll find a ton of variance in performance. If he catches fire, he's virtually unstoppable, but if the shot isn't falling and the defense is taking away every other attack route, that's where the poor results come from. For these reasons, I'm not comfortable labeling him a one-man offense deep into the playoffs. That's already extremely rare as is, and with his limitations, I think his ceiling more depends on how much he'll grow away from the ball off of another playmaker. At times, he's almost a corpse off the ball, just standing around as he waits for it to get back to him, and even when it does, he has a tendency to reset the possession, as opposed to quickly attacking off the catch within the flow of the offense. He catches the ball near the logo, forcing a long closeout from Ivica Zubac, who he can easily blow by in space, but instead holds and takes a really tough jumper. I think it is important to note that he hasn't really had any creation around him, so building great off-ball habits can be a bit more difficult, which is something I think Atlanta is trying to tackle through the addition of DeJounte Murray, because when Trae is directly utilized as an off-ball weapon, he has a pretty vast set of skills. For one, he's an elite shooter off the catch. Although in limited volume, he hit over 48% of his catch and shoot threes last season, which is even more impressive when considering how many of these are coming off of movement or when running around screens. He has that deep threat as well, allowing him to not only offer a ton of spacing with tight coverage, but forcing long, aggressive closeouts. Because he's a lightning quick decision maker, attacking more off the catch in these spots can help cause defensive breakdowns, creating more opportunities for him to either score inside or make plays for others. I also think diversifying the initiation of his pick and roll attacks is key, getting him going off of movement and adding a level of unpredictability to their offense. If this off-ball game gets completely unlocked to the point where he's being used as a legitimate weapon, there's truly no limit to just how much offensive value Trae can bring to the table. That's because a more dynamic attack will leave him much better suited for tough playoff defenses as opposed to that same high pick and roll where he's the only real true playmaker, allowing the opportunity to highlight his weaknesses. Still, you want as much on-ball juice as you can get because he's just a masterful shot creator, passer, and overall floor general, which is enough for me to say he's currently a top 7 offensive player in the NBA. Whether he can actually eclipse the top guys and land at number 1 is a tough task considering the type of talents he's up against, but in my opinion, he has a great shot at heading that next tier and becoming an MVP level player on that end of the floor. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and turn my post notifications on to be first on more content. If you're interested in my more in-depth research, make sure to check out my website, podcast, and social media profiles. You can find those links in the description. Feel free to let me know down in the comments what you think of Trae Young and just how good you believe he is. As always, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.